you have a graduate degree from NYU in musical theater. Uh,
Yeah.
and you've been like a long time interested in musical theater. You've written lyrics, you've done songbooks or like the books for a musical.
hmm
And I'm not sure how much you perform yourself too. Like,
No, I
yeah,
don't.
okay.
No. But
uh,
not since I was little, like
oh,
a
gotcha.
kid.
How is that how has that been going? I mean, like you've kept kept that up, and you now have something. You have like a festival you're participating in Seattle. What is it like preparing for that?
Yeah, I mean, and it's really cool when like you write projects with friends. Like these are friends that I met at NYU, and it's inspired by one of my friends' personal life experiences. So when she came to me and was working through something challenging in her life and wanted to write some songs about it. So this was around maybe 2017. So that excited me. Like she wrote a bunch of monologues and was like, I think this is a song, and immediately it did feel like a song. So that's how that started, and then has I guess there's like this pipeline kind of with new musical theater that there's theater festivals or awards that kind of can get eyes on producers and regional theaters on your piece. So it's cool when something that you participated in gets recognized. So that's going to be next weekend. So rehearsals actually start today. Um, I'm going to be watching virtually just by virtue of not being able to travel to Seattle right now. But then there's a performance on Saturday. So that will be really cool.
Yeah, and especially for this too to be like a continuation of work that you've done with some of your other
hmm
graduate colleagues and friends
Exactly.
and things. It's such a cool thing to like to apply what you've and just the joy. Like I feel like part of continued education or just education in general is being with meeting friends, meeting like minds, and so now you get to create something together. That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
thank you. Yeah.
yeah, well, and I know that you have like a long time experience with musical theater. Did you know early on that this was like how you, or one of the ways, but definitely certainly a focused way that you like to express your creative voice?
Um, I guess when I discovered in college that like there are ways to learn how to write musicals, like I always was interested in writing and self-expression and realized that I wasn't very talented at singing and performing and was kind of too shy. So when I just liked being in the room with people singing and performing. So when I found out that NYU had this graduate musical theater writing program, I really created a portfolio just to apply to that program, actually. So I didn't have a whole lot of experience. I had a little bit. So that was when I was, yeah, right after I went to college. So I guess I was just turned 21. But then once I learned some of the craft of writing lyrics, I realized that that was one of my favorite ways of self-expression, especially because there's kind of a little bit of hiding behind a character, which I know that like other even fiction writers and stuff like there's always a little bit of you in every a character that you write.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's so
mhm.
cool. And it's great that that there is that vehicle that you can have like you through through a character or writing lyrics, but not necessarily feeling like the need or like the comfortability with performing them.
Yes.
You have an outlet still, and you have something to do in that way. And just curious because like I know that your work with obsessive compulsive disorder with OCD and your experience with it firsthand, and also too just noticing that you have this like creative element as well. I was wondering if like you find that there's like a sense of relief through this creative outlet that you have from maybe I mean, I'm not sure how OCD manifests for you, but is there a sense of relief that you get from working on lyrics, delving into feelings and coming up with something, whether it be like a full book or even just writing a song.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Especially because it kind of forces you to think of like what feelings or emotions are universal. And then, because at least from my experience with anxiety and OCD, it's like very self focused. But then when you write something, you want it to be accessible, which um, naturally I think requires you to kind of expand the focus. So I think that it has been. I just when I'm like really in an OCD spiral or stress, like it's very difficult to channel that creative um, output. But I think once I've kind of calmed down and have a little bit of space, then I can. There is something universal to every type of anxious experience because yeah, like it's not it's I know for certain it's not just me, just yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Yo, no, and I also speak from some experience of my own. Like, so I have my own manifestations of OCD, and I find that it would there was a relief through some creative pursuits that I was doing. For a while, I was
Mm,
doing improvisational theater. I was doing
yeah.
improv comedy in New York, and you have to abandon all of the
Yeah.
you have to put all that down to really handle some of that I guess maybe high stress, but also high fun kind of immediacy of spontaneous theater. And so I enjoyed kind of being there with that. But then too, like, I do feel like there's a something of a benefit or something of a boon of having something like OCD if you want to find it as a boon, but you have like this ability to be hyper aware, and so
Yeah.
you can really be with a feeling, and you can really study the feeling. um and
Mm.
and I know and something that's really wonderful that you've been working on is you have been identifying mindfulness techniques and even just Buddhist practices in tandem with treatment or coping with OCD symptoms, and you've created a workbook for it. I believe it's a thought is just a thought,
Yeah.
a Buddhist guide to OCD, which you have, and I'll get into this more in a minute, but you have as a PDF ebook, and that's on your website,
Mhm.
naomimatlow.com.
Yeah.
And the workbook, I mean, it sounds like a really helpful handbook for people to have. So what inspired you to create something like this?
Yeah, that was also coming from school. When I guess so. Yeah, it was fall 2021. I was previously working as a travel writer for a travel company that then had to stop for COVID. So I was kind of looking for something to do. And I found the Lesley University Mindfulness Studies master's program. So originally I had signed up just to do a graduate certificate, but I enjoyed it so much, so continued to do the master's. So this was my thesis project. The You could do a kind of a large research paper or a creative project, and then support it with research evidence. So that's what this turned out to be, and it was kind of just through the studies of like the ancient Buddhist texts and um, learning more about the roots of mindfulness. I just was struck as the coursework progressed, like how beneficial it was to rumination and just kind of understanding the role of thinking. So it kind of naturally it was helpful to me as someone with struggling with rumination, but also I thought that I would was hopeful that then if I kind of melded these two interests together, I could create something that could be helpful to people.
Certainly, you
So.
Yeah, and thank you. Well, it's what's such a wonderful thing is that you wrote this, and it's a culmination of your work with Leslie University, and then you adapted it or formatted it for a shareable PDF that other people can
Yeah,
access. And then I've been noticing that you were able to turn this into an article for Lion's Roar, which is a Buddhist magazine
yeah,
online, and then you were a cover feature on an article or a newsletter for International OCD Foundation in 2024. And I feel like the mental health community, or maybe maybe a niche element of the mental health community, but certainly, I mean, like this is like that's like a big organization, and also a very reputable magazine like Lions Roar. They've picked it up, and I think that it's really resonating. Your message is really resonating in a really
mm,
important way.
thank
So I
you.
appreciate you offering it. And the uh the handbook. I mean, I was wondering, when as you were kind of dipping into this, had you had some spiritual or otherwise mindful practice, meditation practice, or something before you pursued this certificate or this program? Because I know that you have like a religious background. I think that you've worked with synagogues growing up in the
Yeah.
Toronto area. I was wondering what your spiritual background was before school.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I was raised Jewish and definitely identify as Jewish. Um, but then I guess it was around my early 20s that I kind of started to get more interested in meditation. I remember, and I talk about it a little bit in the handbook, that when I started working with my CBT therapist on exposure and response prevention and stuff in high school, we would do some. Like she would lead some meditations together and was really encouraging me to practice with the like John Kabat-Zinn CDs. And I've had a lot of resistance to it because I found it was at the time like incredibly difficult to sit with myself without distraction. Um, but then I guess I was I don't know, I began to get more curious as the years progressed, like as I um, would not definitely not fall into like having diagnosed OCD right now if I were to do the test, but it's definitely like a lingering thing in my life. So I just found it kind of rear its head a little bit more. And I guess I remembered how much my therapist was encouraging me to meditate, and we'd had talked about it over the years. So I started to try it, and then I became really curious about like where like what the Buddhist roots of mindfulness and meditation was. So I went on a retreat, which kind of so I now that I'm speaking, like I feel like I'll search things up online and like find myself going, and then I don't really know what it is until I'm actually there. But that's very much what it was. So it was like a fall of 2019. I did my first uh, insight meditation retreat, and I didn't even know the phrase insight meditation. I really just Googled like meditation retreat New Mexico because it was a place I wanted to go, and that was like I think it was six nights at this beautiful place called Vallecitos Mountain Retreat Center in northern New Mexico, and at that retreat, the teachers were Sebene Selassie and Alexis Santos. It's our two very like highly regarded teachers in the insight meditation tradition. And it was one of the most difficult experiences, but a life changing one for me that then just kind of piqued my curiosity as wanting to learn more. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was like the first time I heard a Dharma talk or practiced walking meditation.
And was
I,
that? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was like, then, oh, I could see how this can really bring. ease and peace ultimately. So that led me to uh, the master's program. Yeah, a couple years later.
Wow. And I really I totally hear that that impulse to like, well, I want to go somewhere cool, you know. I want to go
Yeah.
somewhere I want to go somewhere I want to go.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do something different, it might as well be like in a really awesome surrounding. And I haven't really spent time in New Mexico, but it does, I mean, just from what you see on like a Google image search or something like that, it's just like a really incredible kind of
Yeah.
landscape. And the I'm just it takes a lot of courage to kind of do something different like that. I don't know if I don't think I have spent like an extended period of time doing a retreat like that. Was it like a silent almost retreat? Yeah.
Yeah, like the way they describe it is noble silence, like you're not kind of chit-chatting with people, but like when you do your uh, like you can ask a question during like the after the Dharma talk or something, or when you're doing your yogi job, which is kind of helping, like whether it's ringing a bell to remind people to come back to the hall or chopping vegetables, like it's if you need to say something, but it's more like if it's required. So you're not going to get in trouble, but it's it's very silent, like yeah, like eating that the most startling thing was when you're eating. I
Wow.
found it very very it was a kind of a relief, I have to say, like to not feel like the impulse or that you're being rude if you're not asking someone how their day is or something.
Right, right. Yeah, you can't like just jump right into like the Lakers or the Emmys or something like
Exactly,
that
exactly.
with
Yeah.
somebody. But I feel like that element of chit chat. I mean, there is like a underneath that there is a maybe a desire, but also just a maybe a very human want of connection, and that's a lens through which or an avenue through which that somebody can develop that connection. And yet you still are eating before like in front of maybe someone, like you're at a big
Yes.
table and there's no phone to kind of like look through news
Yeah.
apps or anything, so you are connecting with that other person.
Totally. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you feel like you know people, but you don't really know their name until like 6 days later when you can say hi and then you go on the bus and go home.
Yeah. And have you, I mean, I know that that was I don't know if you've done other retreats since then, but I mean, did you make a friend through that, or did you feel like you could like stay in touch with somebody, or was it just kind of like I really appreciated being in a like-minded environment with you all, and may we find this again kind of thing.
Yeah, more the latter. Like I feel like there was maybe a couple people that maybe we exchanged emails, but yeah, it was more like hopefully we'll I don't know the way like see you on the down the path somewhere.
Yeah, likely. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. And then w with you being in this environment where you're hearing a Dharma talk for the first time, you're doing walking meditation for the first time, and it does sound like there's like this Vipassana Buddhist
Yes.
element. Uh, did that feel kind of uh, awkward or anything different for you? Because I don't know if you've had interactions with Buddhism before, but like, did it feel comfortable enough to do? Did it feel like I'm really treading into something very different here? I was just wondering what that feeling like was for you.
That's a good question. I think I was surprised how comfortable it felt. Um, yeah, I'm trying to like put myself back in that situation, but I remember feeling like a sense of relief, like, oh, this is what I'm interested in. Like, what, where did, where does, where does the idea come from that like sitting in silence for 10 minutes, like, who started
Yeah,
this
who came up with
and
that?
why? Yeah.
Uh, that's wonderful. And then, I mean, have you kept up an association with, or an affiliation with, or even just like a committed practice within the Insight community?
Yeah, mostly by myself. Like doing uh, guided meditations. Like I'm an avid uh, Dan Harris fan of 10% Happier. or now, yeah, now he has his own Substack, but following a lot of the guided meditations of the teachers he brings in, um, and I do try. I'm less diligent as I would like to be, so I try to bring in like either walking like without listening to anything, or when I'm lying in bed in the morning, like try to just be in my body for a few minutes. So I feel like it's more uh, less like regimented as it would be on a retreat. Or I've just found that having like those strict rules kind of hasn't been super helpful for me. So it's more just like bringing it into my life when it feels more natural.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's wonderful too, like in the way that you've phrased some of the insights that you've gotten from like retreats like this, or even from your study, and maybe some of these teachers that you've been listening to as well, where you talk about in some of your articles, and I believe in your interview with the OCD Whisperer,
Yes.
the podcast, you talked about these using your body as this thing that is constantly in the present, whereas
Yeah.
like thoughts can get distracted on just about anything that's usually the past or future, things like that, like things to get that you want to get ahead of, or uh, beat yourself up with or something. And
Yeah.
whereas the body is this kind of way you can root back into your body, your the present moment. And when you talk about thoughts as being uh or the mind as being one of the information tools that we use to
Yeah.
gather things about our environment, or about our where we are situated. And just like how we have an ear gate or an ear door or something like that, and a mouth door for taste and things like that, the mind is similar like that. And did did seeing some of these things that you'd worked on in therapy before, that is not necessarily rooted in a Buddhist context, did the Buddhist context help in a metaphysical way, or like a deepening way for you?
Definitely. Like it made it really kind of um made me understand that it doesn't have to be like pathological, like the mind being a um kind of a hindrance to calm or presence, like that's just a universal experience. And maybe for people that suffer from OCD and rumination, it's just kind of hijacked even more and really hard to detangle from the events of the mind. But the idea that like on the Buddhist path, like one of the ways to, or one of the spokes of like the wheel to ultimately achieve nirvana and then have peace and not have to come back to this life again in a different body, is to recognize that the mind is not um, is like not necessarily like a subjective experience, or like is and necessitates like judgment or rumination or obsession, or that like clinging to anything, whether it's a thought or a great physical sensation, will ultimately lead to enhanced suffering. Like that was very eye opening to me, that's it's not just for um, that's not just advice for someone that either has trouble being trapped in their own mind.
Yeah. And does some of these meditation techniques, I mean, like, how much did you, when you were to look back at some of the therapy that you'd done, how much do you think that there is like a just a natural correlation between some of the mindfulness techniques that you've experienced in Vipassana or insight on retreat, and just some of these more clinical things? I'm just curious if like there are, it seems like might be different inroads for addressing the same thing, and yet when they're both together, which is something that you've synthesized in a really beautiful way, in an important way, it feels like it can go draw even deeper. But I was just curious, like how much of your maybe your therapists, I don't know if they've been influenced by Buddhist practice, or if they've been influenced by something else, or if it's strictly secular and it has nothing to do with anything. I was just wondering like how much of those therapy modalities that you've experienced with ACT, I believe, and some other
Yeah.
things, how much of those feel like they uh offer in the way that that some of these mindfulness techniques do through maybe a Buddhist practice lens.
Yeah, I think a lot of the more like contemporary frameworks, like ACT, and at least I know now there's something called ICBT, like inference-based CBT, that I'm curious about. I don't know a whole lot, but from my understanding, that there is kind of through lines of mindfulness and meditation, and using the like seeing thoughts as separate from like one's present moment experience, which I think is so very much like part of what Buddhist practice is. So I think that it's more present. At least from my a little bit of reading and listening to Stephen Hayes, like one of the founders of ACT, that I believe he's very influenced by like Eastern tradition and Buddhism, and I think um, I think that it's definitely present in a lot of the more like contemporary, like I don't know if it's like maybe it's like second wave or I don't know some of the more modern tools or frameworks for alleviating anxiety.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
then just to go briefly back to something, because I know that going to New Mexico was something that you wanted to do because it was a cool place and
Yeah,
cool spot.
exactly.
And I know that you used to work or write for or work with Unsettled, which was that
Hmm.
company that had to take a break from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Uh, and now with this kind of background that you have within mindfulness and your experiences with Buddhist practice, I mean, does it make you want to go and visit some pilgrimage places, or does it make you want to go and explore things that are touched by the history of Buddhism?
Yeah, very much. I'm definitely interested in traveling to India and Nepal, and to go to like Bodh Gaya where the Buddha was said to be born. Yeah, I'm very interested and curious. So I hope, as you were saying earlier, I just had a baby, so I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, but absolutely before I die to go to
Yeah.
those places.
Yeah, no, it'd be very
Mhm,
meaningful.
mhm,
And yeah, as someone that is as a new mother, I mean, do you find that as you are like even like carrying the child and
mhm,
also just like where you are now, I mean, do you find there are certain entryways into recognizing yourself in the present moment that are like
mm.
that are through the body in a different way because your body is changing so much, and I was wondering if there's something that these experiences of holding more attention towards your body has revealed for you about your connection to being a mother and to your general experience.
Mm. That's a really good question. I would say yes. I think also just the idea that, or like really living for the first time, that like the body is like has an intelligence to it, and it's like I'm not doing anything that's actively growing this baby inside of me, but just there's like an imprint of just like humanity that just knows, like the body just knows what to do, um, which I think has I've definitely more in awe of the capacity of the human body, and that um, yeah, that like there's no choice but to be present, which I guess was always true. But yeah, I'll like share that my son was born very early, at 27 weeks and 3 days after a medical event that I had, and something that thank God he's doing okay, and he's now 32 weeks as of yesterday, but in the NICU. And the only thing that like the doctors can and nurses, he's on oxygen and has is feeding through a feeding tube, and like that there's so much that they can do, thankfully, but like can't speed up time, like that there's that the only that the only thing we could do is just be present with what is happening today on Monday. And that's like the mind is like, okay, when we bring him home in the end of September, like, but that's not real. Like what's actually happening is what's happening today. So that's been a really um, um, I guess I'm it's I was gonna say helpful, but it's also painful, but just the reality of just what of the human experience is like we can really only be here right now.
Right, right.
Hmm.
And then thank you for offering that because I know that
Hmm.
that's been such a stressor for
Yeah.
you, and it's been so intense, and so thank you for being open about sharing that. And something that I've been taking a lot of, like, since I've been preparing for our conversation, I've been reading a lot more of your work and the things that are
Oh,
available
thank you.
from what you've been offering widely. And something that I thought was really wonderful that you highlight is uh, that there is this question of, can you let this thought happen in the first place? Like,
Mhm.
can you let the
Yeah.
an intrusive thought, even if it makes you squirm or makes you really deeply uncomfortable, like, happen? And also asking the questions of, like, what distresses you? Is it the thought or is it the reaction to the thought?
Yeah.
And I think that that's also a really wonderful question to ask. And I feel like, especially in high intense environments or in challenging circumstances of life, it's something that you're going through. And I think that just as people walk their path, that just like things happen.
Yeah.
Um, there is, when the temperature is turned up and more thoughts come in, uh, some of those thoughts are thoughts to listen to. And like if you smell smoke,
Mhm.
that's one to investigate. But if you have an intrusive thought that is suggesting that you ought to do or have done something that you don't do, or that is uncomfortable or violent or whatever it is, it sets the whole program going, just like as if you smelled smoke. Like,
Right.
your whole body starts going, all right, we got to be anxious. All right, let's flip the anxious switches.
Mhm.
Let's got all the bodily functions going the way that we need them to go. um I just wanted to, like, basically offer some gratitude to you
Yeah.
offering that, like, um that challenge of, like, can we let that thought be a thought, is just such a profound question, especially when you are someone that has OCD and has to find different ways of, like, coping with it. Asking that question of, like, can I let this stress be stress,
Yeah.
and not make it any, and let it kind of pass through instead of, like, holding on to it. Um, and so I just want to say, like, as someone that is goes through those waves of challenges and things like that, I find that question to be really helpful. So thank you for offering it.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
do you find that, like, having had some exposure to that type of therapy or to that type of experience with really investigating that question? I mean, how has that helped you contend with some of these challenges that come up?
Yeah. Well, thank you for articulating it in that way, because I'm not sure if that's something I had said, like, can you let a thought just be a thought? Or that's something that I think I read or heard from this a psychiatrist named Chad Lejeune, and he wrote, I don't know, I have his book somewhere, but he said like an OCD thought is a thought you're not willing to have. So like, can you just have it and be like, no, that it's doubt. Like, okay, maybe I am a terrible person. Maybe I am causing the fire alarm to go off. Like all these, and that doesn't necessarily make physical sensations of the anxiety go away, but it's kind of, I don't know, like alleviates some of the pressure of like, I need to figure this out now. I need, how do I fix this? How do I er- erase this or something? And just those are things that just either aren't possible or aren't helpful.
Certainly, I feel like a very tame example is just like being late for something in the car,
Hmm.
and there's traffic, and you're like, oh my God. And then like just having all this tightness when you're in traffic, like you can't do a whole lot about the traffic, and so
Right.
you are going to be late, and you have to accept that
Exactly.
accept that lateness, and torturing your body and torturing your mind and doing all these things does nothing. And so accepting that is, I mean, but what a challenge. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that what's underlying a lot, and this is something that I have been curious about asking you, um, having learned about what you work on, is how how do you develop the courage to do that? Like how, because it really
Mm.
is, it's the impulse is to tighten up. The impulse is to avoid the pain or push it back and deal with it later. Um, and it takes a lot of courage to say, I will let this wave crash into me. I will let this
Mhm.
hyper intense feeling come in, and not just come in, but I won't process it the way that I process other thoughts. I'm going to let it go in and let it go out, uh that's the plan going forward for these intrusive things. Like how do you develop the
Mhm.
courage to kind of let those things happen?
Yeah, definitely. I'm. I don't always have the courage, um, and sometimes if I don't, then I'll find myself just either feeling really crappy or just like fighting internally with myself, and then feeling even more crappy. So I guess it's kind of, um, yeah. And this is like advice that I also want to tell myself too when things are challenging, but like that. Um, that like resist that I don't know, being like a little bit more compassionate to oneself and recognizing like this is you are experiencing a moment of doubt. um it's kind of like an experiment, I guess. Like it it's not always immediately going to feel better or like alleviate like the physical sensations of stress, and you'll still be angry and pissed that you're sitting in traffic, but at least you kind of, I don't know, the pressure valve is like a little bit loosened when you're like, this is a moment of doubt. Or I how many times have I beat myself up, and like have I has it led to anything, like, or uh yeah, am I making the situation worse by ganging up on myself? So I guess it does require courage, but it can be like courage fused with like compassion, I guess. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how articulate that was,
No,
but
it was. It's a lot. I mean, we're trying to figure out something that's like like really front of mind or in the
yeah.
mind, or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
But the that compassion element I think is really important, and just being like, well, I've got this. And I think OCD, as far as I know, is that you live with it. There's no
Yeah.
magic necessary. I mean, maybe some people are able to fully walk away from it, but I think that it stays with you for a long time.
Hmm.
It can. And uh so it's an awful lot. And the other thing was with the compassion. I feel like that is a really wonderful thing, just to kind of remind yourself that like it's okay, and then and there'll be more chances. And it's work, it's work that you're putting in. So like being gentle with yourself about how you approach that work is really important.
Yeah.
um I also feel like that there's a an element of like trust in the moment, because something else that I saw that
Mhm.
in one of your pieces, that you talked about how the world, like through a Buddhist lens, I think, with the idea of like suffering being permeating life.
Mhm.
Uh, there is this, I forget exactly the phrasing you had for it, but it was really great. It was like unsurmountable uncertainty, or like it was like just like this it was like this high degree of uncertainty that life has. And it can be, and that is so much, and doubt is so much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's like a reframing device that like maybe calling it mystery, or like, being up
Hmm.
for the game and the challenge of life that can like help somebody contend with that unknown, because there's so many unknowns. It's
Yeah.
almost all unknowns, right?
Yeah.
I think,
It's
right?
I think so. I think so.
We don't know what's going to happen next. And so that doubt is like, just for even anybody, even that I feel like that doesn't have OCD, doubt is an awful big pressure, or uncomfortable situation to be in, to be in a doubting state. Uh, have you, as far as like your experiences in the creative arts, in Vipassana and different things, like, have you become more comfortable with doubt? How would you recommend maybe getting more comfortable with just the uh just unbelievable ocean of uncertainty that's before us and behind us and all that kind of stuff?
Oh my God, I don't think so. I think I need I think I would I need a lot more study or experience to feel more comfortable with doubt or uncertainty. And I think like the past month and a half with our son has definitely um, made that more apparent. How when I have more energy and capacity, I'd like to learn more about how like the Buddhist tradition or really any kind of spiritual tradition is deals with the tremendous amount of uncertainty. And I guess at least from my knowledge currently is just to be present. And it's like what is actually happening right now. um, um, yeah, which is can be very challenging and uncomfortable. um, but um, but yeah, like um, yeah, feels
Yeah,
like that's like the only place to garner any wisdom is from the present.
being with it, being with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot with such a huge
No,
question,
no,
because
I
like
wish I knew the
I think
answer.
we all do. It's kind of the question. Uh,
Hmm.
and the other thing I wanted to ask too is like, so you have a background and ancestry in Jewish culture, Jewish heritage, Jewish faith,
Hmm.
and you've explored also I guess maybe clinical slash kind of like Eastern philosophy influence clinical
Hmm.
philosophies, and you've also done some studying of Buddhism and incorporated some of that Buddhist practice into your life. And I know that like just from reading some things that are out available that you've written, you've quoted, I believe, Ram Dass at one point. I was curious, like, has like as of right now, are you open, and have you explored other faith traditions? Have you explored other philosophies that are out there? And what your experience has been like finding those?
Yeah. I think um at least from what I learned about Buddhism, that like it wasn't intended to be a religion. It's more like the Buddha himself was like, don't need to prescribe to anything. Just this is what I've done to have ultimate freedom. Like try it yourself. So yeah, I feel I don't know if I'm just kind of still figuring it out, but I found that um, I'm aspiring to pursue like the Noble Eightfold Path as well as um, like honoring my Jewish heritage and going to synagogue for major holidays and stuff, and raising a Jewish baby. But yeah, I think I'm very interested in any just how anybody contends with pain and uncertainty and suffering. And I think that like the religious and spiritual traditions have spoken to me the most so far, and how people deal with those like life's challenges. Um, yeah. So, but yeah, there's so much more like also in like my own faith tradition of Kabbalah and stuff. I don't know a whole lot, so that's definitely I'm yeah, I really like learning about how any faith or spiritual tradition, or why people lean on kind of on uh, or yeah, lean on religion or spirituality. Um,
Yeah, to answer
yeah,
those questions, like
yeah, exactly.
because they the human experience like seems universal. It's certainly there are certain universal qualities to the life we live, and it's interesting to see cultures the world throughout history have places where it coalesces in similarity and coalesces in philosophy and things like that in a way that they seems kind of shared, or it seems
Hmm.
kind of reflective. And then there are some very unique elements too that we live in a time of access to so much information with the internet and things like that, and sharing and communication that we can maybe have some freedom to explore or incorporate and different things like that. And um, yeah, no, there's a lot of wisdom to be had too, and so it's a lot.
Hmm.
There's a lot available to look into. So I'm glad that that's something that, well, on the one hand, Buddhism is something that you kind of want to uh, look into and to have some sort of connection to some of the core elements of it, the
Hmm.
philosophical elements of it, but also being open to um, definitely like connecting with some of the things within your root religion
Yeah,
and with your heritage, and also maybe the things that are available outside of that as well.
yeah.
No, it really is a very powerful thing, and no, it's wonderful. And then when you are doing some of these, I guess like some of these theatrical spaces, like being in community, because I know that like when you were at school, you were with your colleagues
Hmm.
for your NYU certificate or for your graduate program. You made connections and you got together with like-minded people. When you went to the Vipassana retreat or the Insight retreat in New Mexico, you were with people, even though if you weren't talking all that much. Um, does being in community do something for you, whether it be in the synagogue or elsewhere, that kind of helps kind of root you, or do you feel like so much of exploration and things like that happen when you are in a solitary space?
Yeah, I definitely think in community, um, kind of um, is I don't know. That just seems like the more natural way, I guess, to connect with these like universal um, human experiences. So I think even if it's just like even right now, just having this conversation with you kind of uplifts my spirit to know like, okay, we're having an honest conversation about the challenges of life and what we do to kind of make the day to day a little bit easier. So I think um, uh, either like practicing meditation or going to um, or having a prayer ceremony or going to a sound bath with other people. Like these are all things that can be done individually, but just it seems to be more like reflection of reality when we're all like having our individual experiences, but like in communal environments. So I definitely prefer, even if we're being silent, like there's something comforting to know that other people are other people came to that place, are searching for something, and are putting in the effort and hours to make themselves feel a little bit better, or to yeah, to that are interested in the human experience, to make themselves a little bit more comfortable, to ultimately be of greater service afterwards. Like I think that it feels so much better in community.
There is something so wonderful about people that have come together and ask important questions,
Hmm.
and likewise too. I mean, like I'm getting a lot out of hearing you talk about your experiences with OCD, with spiritual life, with challenges and things like that, because it makes me feel less alone in that. And then you've created this document, this your workbook that I'm going to get into in just a second. But like your conversations like these are so helpful.
Yeah.
And my own I mean like my own path. I mean, like I was a religious studies major in college. I was exposing myself to a lot of different philosophies and different like ways of manifesting spiritual practice and things like that. And it's just cool to be, even if it's in a book, just be surrounded by different people that are like, what is the deal?
Exactly.
And like trying to
Like,
figure out like how do we do this? Like, why is this
yeah.
happening? And of course you could do that, you go down to the science department too. They're doing that. You go to
That's true.
the art
Yeah.
department, they're doing that too. But the I suppose like through it the flavor that I like is within this kind of wisdom
Yeah, me
spiritual
too.
context. Um and uh and it's nice too, like whenever I read, I have a Zen practice. I have a Soto Zen
Yeah.
practice, and reading, maybe they happen, maybe they didn't happen, but conversations between Zen masters and their students, or Zen teachers and their students, and they'll be asking questions about like the Dharma or the nature of what Zen is, and you get to read these conversations. And what's wonderful is that, like, yeah, because someone else was asking this too.
Yeah.
And the whether it's a koan or not, you get to like you get to have that written, and then you get to hold it and share it. And like,
Mm.
even if you don't, even if they are not necessarily named, or if they exist in the first place, there is some sort of connection that you have to the writer of that, or the person that passed
Totally.
that down. So there is this kind of like ancestral lineage that you have with these questions that are always pertinent, because we don't know what the deal is.
Right. No one's figured it out yet.
Yeah.
Or
So it's
could report back like
right,
in the
right.
next life or something.
But there's so much to know, like from your own walking it too. So like you get to know your own thing. And so and with that, I wanted to say, thank you so much for making your quest available, and
Mm.
the research and the things that you've done to other people. And I've really enjoyed our conversation a great deal. And I just had two questions remaining, which are relatively quick. But if there's anything that you want to promote to get more eyes and ears on, and as you think about that, I wanted to draw people to your website, naomimatlow.com, NaomiMatlow.com, TLOW.com. And you have a thought is just a thought, available via PDF ebook, and that's a handbook and a workbook for individuals that struggle with OCD inclined minds, and has Buddhist psychology we woven within that. And through this website too, you can reach out for one-on-one peer support that you offer people. You also have a Substack, Into the Heart by Naomi Matlow. And you've just to go over again, you have written work with Lions Roar and with the International OCD Foundation. But I just wanted to offer some of the things that you've done. But if there's anything else that you want to get attention on, happy to hear it.
Oh, thank you. No, that's you said more than I would have said. So thank you. Yeah. Was like happy to, yeah, I really enjoyed meeting you and connecting with you. And yeah, my website has links to my Substack, or to the ebook, and to my email if anyone would like to chat, or if I could, yeah, share any more about my experience. I'd be happy to.
Wonderful. And also, I don't know if you feel comfortable, but you have a show, you have the lyrics that you worked on is going to be in a festival soon in Seattle. So if you're in Seattle,
Yes.
August 9th, right? Or something like that.
Yes, Saturday, August 9th at 2 p.m. the Village Theater Festival. It's in Issaquah, which I think is a little bit outside Seattle.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So Seattle
Yeah.
area.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Perfect. And then quickly, I mean, if you this is a however you want to address it, but do you have any advice for somebody that you would have wanted to have heard as you were walking the Buddhist path
Mm,
to a younger version of yourself? Is there anything that you would have wanted to have heard that that you think could be a benefit to somebody else doing this?
yeah. I guess be more kind and gracious to yourself. Um, and that life is hard, and that there's nothing you're not if it's hard, it's not because you did anything wrong. It's just that's just the name of the game. Um, yeah, which I think that's something I wish I knew sooner. That it was like when a day is hard, it's not because you messed up or you took the wrong step or you did something wrong and you're getting punished. It's just like this is the way it is for everybody.
Naomi, thank you so much for
Thank you
speaking with
so
me.
much.
This is such
Thank
a
you.
treat. And that last little bit, I mean, I feel like that could be a great bumper sticker too, where it's like life is hard not because you did anything wrong, because it's the name of the game. It's like this is what happens. All right, so
Yeah.
stop honking, please.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but thank you so much for offering so much of your time, but also to just like what you bring to people. Because I mean, you came up on my radar because I am someone that is interested in Buddhism and interested in um, healing or coping modalities for OCD. And so you making things available for both
Mm.
that could be helpful for both is such a wonderful thing. And yeah, so just thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, and likewise. Thank you for having these conversations and making them available for all of us.